No food left, aliens despaired, human caught protein with a SockBranch. The cargo bay smelled of despair. Our rations had run out 3 days earlier, and the crew of the Vayari Dawn, an eclectic coalition of species from across the galactic concord, were on the edge of collapse. The last hydroponic trays had withered. The nutrient processors sputtered and died. The recycling tanks barely produced enough for drinking water. I sat slumped against the bulkhead, watching my alien crewmates suffer. The Eleri, their feathered forms usually graceful, had dulled plumage. The Karath warrior who once could lift a cargo pod with one hand now crouched in silence, his scales dull and cracking. Even the gelatinous Lutheri, normally unflappable, trembled weakly in their nutrient tank. No food left. No energy. No plan. Until the human stood up. The human's madness. Her name was Corporal Jenna Hayes, engineer, problem solver, occasional nuisance. She'd been quiet since the rations dwindled, tinkering with scraps no one else valued. Now she stretched, cracked her knuckles, and said, "All right, kids. Time to eat." Every head or equivalent sensory organ swiveled toward her. The Karath hissed, "Do not mock us, human. The protein stores are gone. Our stomachs rot." Jenna just grinned. "Not all protein. You've just been looking in the wrong places." She pulled something from her pocket, a sock. It was threadbare, patched, and undeniably human. She tore it lengthwise, tied it into strips, and fastened them around a bent maintenance branch she'd scavenged from the environmental system. I blinked. "You're making a weapon out of clothing and trash?" "Not a weapon," she said cheerfully. "A net." The Eleri ruffled his faded feathers in disbelief. "A SockBranch is your solution?" "Yep." Jenna slung the makeshift contraption over her shoulder. "Wait here." Into the ventilation maze. We followed her anyway, partly because we had no strength to argue, partly because madness felt better than despair. Jenna crawled into the ventilation shafts. The ship's secondary life support ducts had been flooded with recycled humidity for days. Mold colonies thrived there, fat with moisture and warmth. Normally they were considered pests. But mold fed spores. Spores fed mites. Mites fed. "There," Jenna whispered. She pointed with her SockBranch into a vent chamber. It crawled with chittering things the size of a human thumb, ducked crickets, scavenger insects that had stowed away from some forgotten port. Disgusting, but alive. And alive meant protein. She maneuvered the sock net, quick and precise. With a flick, she scooped a handful of the creatures and stuffed them into a container. They buzzed and clicked in protest. The Eleri gagged audibly. "You intend to feed us vermin?" Jenna shrugged. "Call it vermin. Call it protein. Your body won't know the difference once it's cooked." The first meal. Back in the galley, she built a fire starter from stripped wires and an overheated coil. She dumped the insects onto a metal tray, dusted them with a pinch of dried algae crumbs, and roasted them until their shells popped. The smell was not pleasant. But to stomachs that had been empty for days, it was intoxicating. Jenna held out the tray. "Dinner is served." The Karath sniffed suspiciously. Then, with the resignation of a starving soldier, he snapped up 3 of the roasted insects. His eyes widened. "Crunchy," he muttered. He reached for more. Soon the Eleri plucked one delicately, then another. Even the Lutheri absorbed the slurry when Jenna crushed a handful into their tank. I tasted one at last. Salty. Oily. Horrid. Wonderful. It was food. For the first time in days, the crew laughed. The SockBranch was passed around like a holy relic. Hunting for survival. Over the next week, Jenna became our hunter. Every cycle she crawled into the ducts with her ridiculous SockBranch, returning with fresh harvests of ducked crickets, moisture grubs, and fungus beetles. She learned their habits, their nesting places, even how to bait them with scraps of insulation foam. We ate like scavengers, yes, but we ate. Muscles regained strength. Feathers brightened. Scales smoothed. Spirits lifted. The Eleri, once too proud, admitted, "Human, your methods are uncivilized. But effective. Without you, we would be corpses." Jenna winked. "You're welcome." The alien confession. One night, as the crew gnawed roasted beetles, the Kareth war leader spoke in a low, reverent tone. "I understand now why your kind is feared." We all looked at him. He gestured at Jenna's SockBranch, now blackened from constant use. "When others starve, they pray or surrender. But you adapt. You make weapons from cloth, food from vermin, hope from nothing. It is terrifying." Jenna just grinned, chewing noisily. "We call it improvisation." But I saw the others exchange glances, Eleri feathers rustling, Luthery membrane quivering. They were seeing her, seeing all humans, in a new light. Not weak newcomers. Not reckless primitives. Survivors. Hunters. Deathworlders. The final trial. On the 12th day, the Vayari Dawn limped into orbit around a barren mining colony. Supplies awaited, but the crew was gaunt, hollow-eyed. As docking procedures dragged, the hydroponics alarm blared. The last filters collapsed, sending toxic spores flooding through the lower decks. Panic surged until Jenna leapt up. "I got this." She sprinted into the ductwork, SockBranch in hand. While the rest of us sealed bulkheads, she hunted again not for food, but for the scavenger mites and beetles that thrived on spores. She drove them into containers, released them into the infected ducts, and let nature devour itself. Hours later, the alarm ceased. The infestation was gone. The ship lived. When she emerged, sweat-soaked and grinning, the crew erupted into cheers. Epilogue: the sock that saved us. We resupplied at the colony. Fresh rations replaced roasted vermin. The crew fattened again. Yet no one forgot those 12 days. The Kareth carried one of the roasted insects in a vial, a reminder of humility. The Eleri composed a ballad titled The SockBranch of Sol. Even the Luthery etched a mural on their nutrient tank, a crude human figure holding aloft a bent stick wrapped in cloth. And me. I kept the original sock, charred and frayed, tucked in my locker. A relic. A reminder. Because the truth was undeniable. When food was gone, when hope was gone, when every alien despaired, one human had made survival out of nothing but a sock and a stick. And in that moment, every one of us understood why humanity was feared, and why they would never be underestimated again.